Giuliani told us that every time he showed up at one of these, it was very difficult to find the words. Nobody really had the right words. Everybody struggled just for any words. Words to tell family and friends, something that would make it okay. Nobody has them. Nobody ever had them. To this day, nobody knows what to say. In this case, he told us a story. He had received a letter from a woman and her husband who were born and raised in New York City, but had since come to reside in the Bahamas. They were managers of a resort community down there. I don't know which. I don't know that it really matters. But they had come to live there for many, many years at this point. They had a family. They had children. At one point, they had taken a vacation back up to New York City to visit family and see their old stomping grounds, visit home. I can imagine the Bahamas are a paradise for tourists more than the people who live there after a while. And home is always home. In any event, they had brought their children with them, and they were touring New York City like any other tourist who's never been to that city before would. The odd thing was that the timing of their vacation coincided with the death of John F. Kennedy Jr. You may recall he died in a plane crash. And obviously, being a Kennedy and a very public figure, when they had his funeral service at St. Patrick's Cathedral, it attracted a lot of attention and traffic and commotion and congestion, more so than we even see in the city on an average basis. So streets were closed and blocked off and things of that nature, and the family was walking around, and they came across a fire truck that, to the best of my recollection, was blocking a street. Now, the Bahamas, for those of you who haven't been, are very small. Small towns, small islands, very, very different compared to the big city. And what comes with that territory are the firefighters and the fire trucks of that island nation. They don't have these big city rigs, fire trucks, like Manhattan has. So the kids were just enamored by this Hollywood-esque fire truck there and these real firefighters, just the way most little kids are. Just couldn't believe their eyes. There was one firefighter, a man with a broad shoulders and a beaming smile that quite possibly had children of his own as far as his family knew. He came down off this rig and he spoke to the children for a while. He talked to them about firefighters and the fire truck and fire safety, and he put the kids on the fire truck and put helmets on their heads and let them ring the siren for a moment. The whole event must have taken no more than 10 minutes out of this man's time. But the kindness with which this guy would approach everybody in his life left such a deep, profound, and lasting impact on the lives of this family that when they would go back and look at the photos or the videos or just reminisce about their trip to New York City, the children quite often, even years later, would look back on this event with this firefighter almost most fondly of all the events that took place during that trip. And the mayor was using this as an example to let us know the types of people that these men were. That they were heroes rushing into burning buildings, saving the lives of innocent, but they were also regular people with regular families and just, good men and women. Just good people overall. And that's the regard that we hold them in. But there's more to this story. See, the woman explained to the mayor in her letter the entire time, the one that he's reading to this crowd, that when September 11th happened, living in the Bahamas, she said that they have obviously full access to the internet. They get very little TV coverage and no print whatsoever. So looking up the list of the names of the people who made it and didn't make it that day was very difficult for her. So her first reaction was to call her sister, who still lives in New York City. So she calls her sister. And she says, "You remember that firefighter? Do you remember that man? I need you to look and see if his name is on the list." of people who perished that day. I know this man, and the type of person that he let us see that day makes me think that if anybody made it home that day, it was this guy. It was this firefighter. I just know it. She was convinced, and I can't quote, I don't know the words, but that's the message she conveyed to Mayor Giuliani. While the mayor, reading this letter, quoting him, quoting her, she said to him, "Mayor, you can't imagine how deeply saddened I was." When I say quoting, I'm paraphrasing more than anything. "Mayor, you can't imagine how deeply saddened I was when I received the news from my sister. The man that I knew was not on that list, sure was, and it broke my heart to hear Thomas Sabella's name. For I was sure that he was not one of the men we lost." The entire crowd in that church at that moment was shocked. Everyone, myself included, thought that this story was about a generic firefighter, that it was there just to let us know the kinds of people these men were. At no point did it occur to any of us that this wasn't a story about a firefighter. The story was about the man we had gone to that church on that day to honor. That story was about my uncle. It was about Tommy Sabella. Tommy, not Thomas. Sure, his name was Thomas. Anybody who was anybody that knew him as Tommy.